Hi everybody, welcome to Dandelion Cottage and Paper Crafting Saturday. I'm Leslie Watkins, and today I'm going to do a little bit of heat embossing and gilded leafing. So this is a really fun technique. It's not unlike gold leafing. It's just a sort of a quicker, easier way to get a similar effect. So you may remember when I last saw you, or should I say when you last saw me, I had, let's see, how did I do this? Well, you get the idea. I made this ink painting. There we go. So this is the ink painting that I did on Wednesday, and if you didn't have a chance to watch that, you can go back and see how I used our regular re-inkers. These are the things that we use to re-ink our stamp pads, and I used them to paint this pattern with an idea that I was going to then use these gilded leafing flakes to decorate it. But I had to give it a chance to dry because this was a wet painting. So now it's nice and dry, and what I've done here is I've torn off a little corner, all right, and this is what I'm going to be using as a sample today. And this, the rest of this can be used for more cards, boxes, bookmarks, you name it. So this is a great piece of decorative paper that can be used for a variety of different things. So I'm just going to get this out of the way for now. So this is the piece we'll be using. And before I show you the gilded leafing, I want to show you some basic heat embossing techniques. So for that, I've got a piece of vellum cardstock, and I'm going to grab a stamp. So I'm going to use this dragonfly stamp here. All right, and I'm using the one whose body is filled in, not the one that has the outline. And I'm just going to mount that onto a block. And I have a bunch of stuff to show you today. So I hope you have your coffee because we've got a lot of things to go over. So this is Versamark ink, and it's called a watermark ink pad, and we're going to use it as if it were glue because this is a very sticky kind of an ink. It takes a long time to dry, and that's what we're looking for. And then I also have this tub, and in it I have some gold embossing powder, and I just have this little spoon to help scoop it up. I'm just going to put this to the side for the minute, and maybe, let me see, I think if I take a piece of paper and put this underneath here, you might be able to see it a little bit better. All right. So I'm just going to take my stamp, get that good and inked up with the Versamark ink, and I'm going to stamp this several times along this edge of the paper. You can fit two, that'll be enough for now. I'm just going to grab a bunch of this powder. All right, so there is the gold powder glued to the paper. But that's not the end result. What we're going to do is we're going to heat that up. Now, because today is a live video, I'm not going to be able to edit out the sound. So just turn your volume down for a second. I've got my heat tool here, and this one is actually really nice because it's got two settings. It's got a high and a low. So I'm just going to start with the high for now and let that get heated up. And I'm going to zoom you in because I want you to see what happens. So as I melt the powder, it gets really shiny. There we go. So it's as easy as that. You get these beautiful oh, I missed a little bit. Let me get that. You see that? Can you see that place that I missed? So I'm just going to go back and get that. There we go. Isn't that wonderful? So this is a really fun effect. Now you don't have to use vellum. I'm just using vellum because I'm thinking about the dragonfly wings, but you could use, you know, your cardstock, you can use DSP, you can use whatever. So now I'm just going to grab my dragonfly punch, and first I'm going to cut this down because I stamped them the wrong way. There we go. So just fit that in there. Just lining up his body and his head. There we go. Okay, so that's an example of how to heat emboss using the powders, and they come in different colors. You can get gold, silver, copper, black, white, and clear. All right, so there is our shiny dragonfly. We're not done with that yet. I'm going to come back to that a little bit later, but I just wanted to show you how you can make these really sweet dragonflies. Now for today, we're going to be doing something a little more exciting. So I've got a bunch of stuff here. Let me just clear the deck. This is the stamp set that I used when I stamped the leaves into the damp paper. The flowers I hand painted, and then I stamped the leaves on there. Today we're going to be using this little second step stamping piece that is designed to be used with these flowers to give them more of a dimension, but I'm just going to use it as a center of the flower. I've got a handful of embellishments here for later. I'm just going to put these aside. I've got the gilded flakes. Now I also have another kind of glue, and this is a powdered glue, and it's called heat and stick powder, and we're going to use it in a similar way as we did the heat embossing, only slightly different. And then I have an assortment of brushes here, and I just grabbed some things that I had handy. And I also went into my gilding supplies. So I, on occasion, do 24 karat gold leaf gilding. And I have this tool that I use. This is an agate burnisher. This is an actual agate stone, okay? And then I've got a couple of brushes that I use for oil painting. So these are bristle brushes. So I've got this smaller one, and then I've got this nice big thick one. And then I just have some junky soft brushes here that I use for brushing the gold leafing away, and I thought we could use that today. All right, I'm getting down to the bottom of the pile here. Bear with me for just a minute. I have some ribbons and some inks. I'm not sure if we're going to have time to use them today, but I just wanted to have them handy just in case. So this is the thing that I'm trying to get to. This is a great big tub. It's probably a little bigger than what I need for it to be, but what I wanted was something that was large enough that I could get my paper into. So this, as you can see, is plenty big for that, and I can use a much larger size of paper. Well, all I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my leafing, and I'm just going to take out a portion. This, there we go. That's plenty. All right, and I'm just going to close this up because this stuff can fly away. So I just want to put this to the side. And I like these nice big pieces. You know, as you get down towards the bottom of the jar, the pieces get smaller and smaller, but these nice big flakes are really great to use. So I'm just going to put this to the side until we're ready for it. And then I'm going to take this stamp, and I'm going to mount it on my block. And I'm going to do just the same thing as I did before, which is to use the Versamark as glue. I'm just getting my pad out. And I'm just going to stamp the center of these flowers with this shape, a little bit over the edge here. There we go. Now, but this time, and for this I'm going to get out a piece of my grid paper. So the grid paper is a really handy thing to have. As you can see, I use it to wrap my foam piercing pad, but it's also a nice surface to work on, especially when you're getting a little bit messy, or if you need to measure something because it's got a ruler built right in. I'm going to put a little more light on here so you can see what's happening. Okay, so now I'm going to take my heat and stick powder, and I'm just going to tap a little bit onto these areas where I stamped the Versamark. Okay, I'm just going to tap that off. And then I'm also going to take my Versamark, and this time I'm just going to rub it around the edges. Just like so. And again, now this heat and stick powder is a little different from the heat embossing powder. Okay, so you saw that when I used the heat embossing powder, I could go back several times to make sure that it was good and melted. With this powder, you want to be very careful that you don't overheat it, because if you overheat it, you'll lose the sticky quality. So we just want to melt it a little bit so that it gets sticky. So here we go with the heat gun again, so hold your ears. Now I may want to go back again and do a little more around the edges, but I have a couple of other techniques that I want to show you also. Now here is the gilding flakes getting stuck to the plastic, so just know that these things will stick to anything that has static electricity on it. Okay, I'm just picking off these little bits off the lid because they're all useful. And now, this is why it's good to have these big tubs, because it can contain the flakes while you're applying them. I'm going to have to go back around the edges a couple more times. All right, so once you have them adhering to the places where you want them, just brush away the excess. You can see I didn't press on the pad hard enough around the edges. That's okay. Then you can take your stiffer brush and just remove all of the loose stuff. And I'm applying a fair amount of pressure here, so don't be afraid. Don't be too gentle. Just want to rub all that away. Okay, now let's get those edges again. So I'm just going to do the same thing, making sure that I cover this up so it doesn't blow away. And because I haven't inked up my Versamark pad for a long time, I think that's probably why I didn't get enough of it on there. I'm going to add a couple of drops. All right, and so while the Versamark ink is still on the surface of the pad before it has a chance to seep in, I'm going to rub that along the edges again. Make sure that I've got good coverage. Okay, so hopefully that'll be enough. But I also want to add a couple of dots. So I'm just going to decorate this now with some little just 3 little dots here and there. There we go. Now, back to our glue. Clean this up. Spilled a little glue there. If I had another tub handy, like I had the gold heat embossing powder, I would put the glue in there as well and make it a little bit easier, but I don't have one right now. Okay, so now heat this up. We're just getting the glue sticky. And you can see it just kind of goes shiny. I still don't know if I'm getting anything on the edges. I may have to try something else for that. Okay, and now I'm going to switch to my stiffer brush. Got a little bit on the edges, but still I think I want to go back and do it one more time. Okay. I'm going to grab a sponge. All right, so here's a little quarter of a sponge. And for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something a little bit different. This time, I'm going to use my silicone pad. I'm just going to put a little bit of Tombow on there. This is the multi-purpose liquid glue. And I'm just going to get a nice even coating of that on my sponge. I think I need a little more glue than that. There we go. Let's see how well the flakes stick to that. Okay, that's getting closer to what I'm looking for. That looks great. But I can see some of my dots need a little bit of attention, so I'm going to go back in. So that's two different ways that you can use the gilded flakes. Basically what we're looking for is an adhesive, whether it's the heat activated adhesive or if it's a liquid adhesive. You can also use your tear and tape, double stick tape. You can use the adhesive sheets, anything that's got a nice sticky glue on it, these flakes will adhere to. So depending on what it is that the kind of effect that you'd like to achieve, you could try any one of these different ways. Now I'm just going to let that get a little bit tacky, the glue. And I've got these flakes sticking to me, so I'm just going to knock them back into the box. What you can't see off camera here is the gold flakes that have flown all around my work area here. Just going to pick up a couple of those because there's some big ones I can use. There we go. Just looking to see if I missed any places. That looks pretty good. When you do 24 karat gold leafing, you have something called a gilder's tip, which is a brush similar to this. It's very soft and very wide, much wider, about 4 times as wide as this one is. And that's what you use to pick the gold leafing up because it's so fine that it just floats on the air, as does this product. The difference being that the 24 karat gold leafing is very expensive, so you really don't want that flying around. Okay, so let's get this excess back into our tub. And this is, I'll show you, I'll see if I can move it in the light so you can pick up the shine. It looks beautiful. Get these little pieces off the back. So the Versamark and the heat and stick powder is great for when you're stamping and you want to get a very specific imprint. But I think that for these broader applications, like using the glue, the multi-purpose liquid glue around the edges and for little spots here and there, you can actually even paint with it a little bit. I think that works perfectly well and maybe a little bit easier to use. All right, so I'm going to put this away. I think we're done with these for the minute. Make sure that that top is on there securely so we don't have a bigger mess than we've already created. And now I'm just going to brush away anything that doesn't belong. And I think you can see how beautiful that is. Just gorgeous. Okay. It's very different from the gold embossing powder. So, you know, you may be wondering, well, why do I need both? They're different from one another. You get a very different effect. So I have a card base here that I've already layered up, and I've just got this scrap piece of gold foil that I had cut something out of that I'm going to use up. And now I'm taking my liquid glue. Just going to go around the edges. Get that centered on here. I'm just going to give that a minute to dry because we're gluing card onto the gold foil paper, and because the gold foil paper is not as absorbent as the watercolor paper, it's going to take a little bit longer for the glue to set up. So I'm just going to put this off to the side for a minute while we come back to the dragonfly. So I have the, oops, can you see that? It blends in with the, here, let me bring this back. Maybe you can see it better if I put it on here. Here we go. Blends in with my surface too much. So here's our little dragonfly, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bend the wings where they meet the body and give that a little bit of a pinch. Okay, and then I also have somewhere here I thought I had another dragonfly that I punched out. All right, well, it's flown away. That's okay. Now I have these tiny gilded, what are these called? These are the metallic pearls. And then I also have some of these iridescent pearls. Now these are no longer available. These are a retired product, but you may have some left in your stash. And I like them because they remind me of dragonflies. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my snips and I'm going to take these little metallic pearls and I'm going to put one on either side of the head for eyes. Okay, let's see if you can get that in the camera so you can see. Here we go. There's little eyes. And then I'm going to take these metallic pearls, these iridescent ones, and I'm just going to put 3 down the back. Until this little piece of vellum begins to look like a piece of jewelry. So let's see if you can see that. Let me zoom you in a little bit more. There we go. All right, so I think you can see that pretty well. And now I'm getting out my mini dimensionals. And I'm just going to grab, let's see, I think 2 will be enough. Oh, before I stick him down, I just want to give that one final burnish. Clear all this away so you can see better. All right, and then I think I'll have my dragonfly zooming in just like so. All right, and here's my envelope. There's my beautiful opulent card. Let me move it so you can see some of that shine. There you go. Look at that. It's so beautiful. I wish you could see it in person because the camera does not do it justice. But when you're looking for a very special card for someone very special that has a lot of sparkle and bling, this is the one for you. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me today. This is just the beginning of ideas to use these gilded leafing flakes. You can really just use them on anything. I'm going to be decorating the rest of that paper that I painted with them so that I can use them for some boxes that I have coming up. All right, so I hope you stay well, stay creative, enjoy the rest of your weekend. If you'd like to learn more about my upcoming box making workshop, there's still time to register. And if you need an issue of notes with all of my upcoming classes, please go to my website at dandelioncottagedesign.com and subscribe to notes. And I will send you out information about all of the upcoming classes. And you have until the 9th to register for February. And in February I have a watercolor and ink painting class coming up, how to use your water-based inks as if they were watercolors, very similar to what we have here. We'll be painting from a Touch of Ink stamp set, which features a hummingbird, flowers, and a butterfly, so lots of pretty imagery. And that box making workshop, which is going to be a lot of fun. So that's all for now. I'll see you on Monday for Marvelous Monday. And if you use any of these products or have some new techniques that I didn't talk about today, please share them. Post them below. Let us know how you've been using these gilded flakes. They're a lot of fun.